Welcome to Savidge Kitchen. Today, all about the Mai Tai. There are a lot of variations on a Mai Tai. There's a lot of very strong opinions about the Mai Tai. What we're gonna do today is talk about 4 different versions: the classic Trader Vic Mai Tai, the also equally classic and very different Don the Beachcomber Mai Tai, my personal favorite, the Monkeypod Mai Tai, and the what's becoming very popular, my Ube Mai Tai. So, if you want to jump ahead at any point, there are chapter markers below. Otherwise, come with me on this tropical journey. Before we get into the individual ingredients, let's talk about ice, which I know it sounds kind of nerdy and weird, but ice is foundational to every cocktail, right? There's the ice that you shake with and the ice that you drink with, and sometimes those are one and the same. In tiki drinks and a lot of tropical drinks, you'll most often find pebble ice or nugget ice. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, my refrigerator makes pebble ice. Chances are that's not actually pebble ice. Even if you have the 2 different size cubes, that's still bigger than the pebble ice. Also, crushed ice is not pebble ice. Pebble ice or nugget ice is literally a tiny little cube. This is probably like, I don't know, not even half an inch cube. And it's small and crushable. Now, if I tried to do that on a regular cube out of the refrigerator, I would break my teeth probably. Sounds terrible. But aside from the entertainment factor, there is a reason for these different shapes, right? So when we're talking about ice, both the quality of the water and the shape of the cube become part of the equation that is your final cocktail, right? So for example, if you're drinking an old fashioned with one of those big 2-inch king cubes, that ice melts very, very slowly. And so as you hopefully take your time with that cocktail and sip slowly, that ice is retaining most of its function and shape, and it's not overly diluting a cocktail that's meant to be very spirit forward. On the other hand, when it comes to nugget ice or pebble ice, you typically find these in drinks that are high volume, right? So in a tall glass or a larger glass that have ingredients that include a lot of different juices and sodas and aren't quite as spirit forward. Not always though, I don't know. I've had some tiki drinks that would set my hair on fire. So both of those ice shapes, in addition to the ice that you actually chill and mix your cocktail with, end up diluting a bit and contributing to your drink. So this is where we get into the water quality, right? So there's something called TDS, and that stands for total dissolved solids in your drinking water. This is a measurement that, every city has a TDS measurement, right? And what I love about this ice maker right here is it also has a TDS measurement. So for example, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. The water here, it is really, really hard. It's the desert. So there's a ton of minerals in the water. There's a lot of salt in the water. There's chlorine in the water. Our TDS measurement regularly sits around 300. A safe TDS measurement, according to the Food and Drug Administration, is anywhere from 100 to 1,000. So 300, fine, right? Purified drinking water or bottled water that you may buy at the grocery store sits between 100 and 200. And that's where you get that ideal water taste from. So for example, if you were to drink bottled water and then be here in Phoenix and also drink tap water, you notice that difference immediately. So I bring this all up to illustrate the point that when it comes to our cocktail ice, we are going to use purified water, and I like a machine like this that's going to tell me what the TDS reading of that water is, aside from also making the shape of ice that I want. So let's talk about this for a second. So this is the eCozy Smart Nugget ice machine, and Smart Nugget is my new favorite nickname, by the way. So right away, I love that the design of this is super sleek. I like that it's lit from within, often a trauma response. I also really like that this door here is double paned, so it retains that interior refrigeration longer. Even after it's done making ice, this ice is gonna stay cool for hours before it melts. Also, handy dandy feature, this baby is Wi-Fi enabled. So you can literally, where's my phone? You can literally go on your phone, download an app to connect to this, and if you are away from home, set a timer to have ice made whenever you want, which is amazing because I know on a particularly rough Tuesday, I'd like to have my ice waiting for me for my cocktails. Functionality of this could not be easier. So you just open this bad boy up and there's a little container, and then there's a reservoir up top here where we put our water. So just pop this out. We're gonna add in some of our purified water. Pop this right back in. And then tell it to make ice. Truly, my favorite part of this machine is how quickly it makes ice. So we're gonna be making 4 cocktails here today, maybe 5, we'll see. And this bad boy spits out ice so quickly, it can totally keep up with the demand. So I will put a link below if you're curious about this, want to learn more, want to order one. eCozy Smart Nugget Ice Maker. Check it out. All right, first up, let's talk about the Trader Vic's Mai Tai. This is the classic, the OG Mai Tai. So the legend goes that Trader Vic, Victor Bergeron, had guests in town from Tahiti, whipped up this cocktail for them. So the wife loved this drink so much that she exclaimed, Mai Tai ro ai, right? I could be butchering the second half of that. Regardless, it means out of this world, the best. So we pronounce this now as Mai Tai because that's how it's spelled, M-A-I-T-A-I, but the original pronunciation was actually Mai Tai. So a little bit of Trader Vic trivia for you. So into our shaker, we've already got some ice. And for the very first Mai Tai, they were using Wray & Nephew Jamaican rum. We're gonna use Smith & Cross because that's what I've got that's Jamaican around here. Now, Jamaican rums are known for being funky. They have a very distinct flavor to them. If you don't particularly enjoy a super funky rum, use whatever rum you like. If you want to use a spiced rum, use that. If you want to use a coconut rum, might be a little on the sweet side, but like, you do you. The whole point of these variations is finding something that you like. I want you to choose something that's gonna just make your heart sing. Next ingredient is going to be an orange curacao. Now, there are a ton of different orange curaçaos on the market, and Trader Vic used the decupper orange curacao. And so you'll see if you look it up online, it says an orange curacao from Holland. It's decupper. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just happen to have Cointreau on hand, so that's what we're gonna use. Do 1/2 ounce. So next up is an orgeat. Now, if you guys have been following me for a while or if you follow me on Instagram, you know I own a syrup company. We do produce a couple of different orgeat flavors, and I'm gonna use them later in the video. But for this original recipe, I wanna use a traditional orgeat, which is a simple syrup made with almonds. So this, even though this is in my bottles, this is not something that we sell. There are a lot of different almond orgeat recipes online. Also, you can buy an almond orgeat at the store. Small Hands makes a great one. Liber & Co. makes a good one, which I know that seems crazy. I'm pointing out my competition, but honestly, like, we all make different things and they make a good product. So we just want 1/2 ounce of this. And if you're unfamiliar with orgeat, it's not simply an almond syrup. Orgeat has the addition of either orange blossom water or rose water. And later in this video, we're gonna play with a toasted macadamia orgeat that Savidge Kitchen produces. It's phenomenal. And then a second type of syrup. In the original recipe, they call for a rock candy syrup. And a rock candy syrup simply means that it is a 2-to-1 ratio of sugar to water. So that is considered a rich, simple syrup. And we're just doing 1/4 ounce. Now, personally, if it were me, and it's gonna be in a few minutes, I find this to be a little fussy. I don't wanna have to add 2 different kinds of syrup to a cocktail. I want one syrup that is going to accomplish both things. So we'll get there, but in the interest of science, we're gonna do this the original way first. So then finally, our last ingredient is going to be lime juice. Fresh squeeze definitely tastes better than the bottled store-bought, but use what you got. No judgment here. Now, if you are squeezing your limes yourself, save the hulls, right? Because we're gonna use those for a garnish. Give this a really good shake. Feel good about this. Nugget ice in the glass. I'm gonna take one of my discarded lime hulls, and we're also gonna take a little bit of fresh mint. Even though there's not mint technically in the cocktail, garnishing with fresh mint, you get hit with that scent first, and it really adds something to the drink. Let's put a little shrubbery in here, shall we? Okay, Trader Vic's Mai Tai. Let's move on to Don the Beachcomber. Now, Don was on one when he came up with this. This cocktail recipe has very little in common with the Trader Vic Mai Tai. Nevertheless, it is delicious. It just really doesn't share a whole lot except for rum and some juice. So we're not mad at it though. Let's try it out, shall we? So this recipe calls for two different styles of rum. It calls for a dark Jamaican rum and it calls for a Cuban rum. Also, there is a lot of conflicting recipes online. So the recipe that we are making seems to be the most agreed upon Don the Beachcomber recipe. So feel free to at me in the comments, but like, yeah. So for our Jamaican, we're gonna stick with this Smith & Cross. Ooh. And this we're gonna do 1.5 ounces. And then I don't happen to have any Cuban rum on hand, so we're gonna go a little off script, and I'm gonna use this, it's actually a pineapple rum from Plantation, which is now called Plantaray, by the way. They went through a rebrand last year. 1 ounce of this, but this is gonna get us a little closer to that Cuban rum flavor. Next ingredient, Velvet Falernum. Now, this is a liqueur that I personally think is rather limited in use because it has a very distinct flavor. To me, this is clove. This has a lot of different spices in it, but dominantly, to my palate anyway, this is cloves. 3/4 ounce Falernum. This recipe also calls for Cointreau, like the Trader Vic spec, 3/4 ounce. And this is where shit gets weird. We're going grapefruit juice. Now, I love grapefruit juice in a cocktail. I just never think of it when it comes to tiki cocktails. So a whole entire ounce of grapefruit juice, pink grapefruit juice. Then we want just a dash of Angostura bitters. Oop, well, or 3, whatever. And then just a dash of absinthe. I have mixed feelings about absinthe. And this calls for like just the tiniest bit. And since I've had not great experiences with this one, we are doing just the tiniest bit. This is like 1/2 bar spoon. All right, shake her up and pray to God that you like all of these flavors. Now, we're also going to garnish this with a little mint, but you know what? I'm gonna throw a slice of grapefruit in here so I can distinguish it from our Trader Vic's version. I guess color-wise they are different. This definitely leans more green. This has more orange in it. There we go. There's our Don the Beachcomber Mai Tai. Seems more like a dare than a cocktail, but we're gonna try it. I feel like I'm giving this one a hard time just because I don't love falernum. Otherwise, I love all the ingredients in here, but the heavy clove flavor along with the funkiness of the Jamaican rum, whoo, it's just pungent. Stings the nostrils, as Ron would say. Let's go to Hawaii, shall we? Hawaii is home to my personal favorite Mai Tai, the Monkeypod Mai Tai. So the Monkeypod Mai Tai is found at a restaurant called Monkeypod. There's at least 2 locations on Maui, one in Wailea, one in Kihei, north of Lahaina. West of Lahaina? My sense of direction there is like completely off. Anyway, it is phenomenal. The thing that makes this Mai Tai special is the foam that goes on top of the actual drink. So the drink itself is more similar to the Trader Vic spec. We're going to be using rum, we're going to be using an orgeat, and we're going to be using lime juice. But the foam on top is a passion fruit foam, and it is just so good. It instantly brings me back to vacation, which is where I would like to be right now. So for rum for this one, this actually calls for 2 different rums, a light rum and a dark rum. I do not have the Lahaina rum that they reference in their recipe, so we're going to be using this Plantation 3-star white rum. And then for the dark rum, we're going to be using this Koloa dark rum, which is from Hawaii. This is just produced on Kauai instead of Maui. We're gonna make our foam first and then our cocktail for this one. Now, there are a few videos out there on how to make this foam, and they all seem kind of fussy to me. And not everybody has one of those nitrogen cartridges to make a whipped foam. So we're gonna do a slightly easier route with one of these little coffee frothers, if you have one of these at home. Also, if you just have a blender or a NutriBullet, that's gonna work too. You could even do this with like a hand mixer or an immersion blender. Okay, don't get squeamish, we're gonna be using eggs. Now, you've probably had egg in a cocktail and not realized it. If you've ever had a really foamy cocktail, chances are they're using egg whites. Some places use aquafaba, which is the liquid when you get a can of chickpeas. That's aquafaba. That will also work here. You could try doing it with whipping cream, but that's going to be kind of heavy and not give you the same consistency. But again, do whatever you're comfortable with and experiment. Like, this is the fun of it, right? So we just want the egg white here. I genuinely suck at this. Okay. If you've ever seen my tiramisu video, you know I have issues separating eggs. So we just want an ounce of egg white, which is roughly the egg whites from one egg. And to this, we're gonna add half an ounce of honey, and I am totally just gonna eyeball it. Yeah, looks good. And then the official recipe from the restaurant calls for using passion fruit puree. You can order that online. It's sometimes hard to find in the grocery store. You can find frozen passion fruit. You can also find passion fruit juice, and you can find passion fruit syrup. Again, syrup company, I'm plugging another syrup, but they make a really good passion fruit syrup, and I don't make one, so good job, small hands. So in this case, we're gonna use passion fruit syrup instead of the puree. And one of the reasons this is going to work is because the recipes I found online call for adding water and then adding puree, which essentially what you're getting down to is a passion fruit syrup. So we're just going to add passion fruit syrup. We're going to do 2 ounces of this. And we're just going to whip this up until we get stiff peaks from our egg white. I mean, look how quickly that changes color. Now, this foam is not going to have as much structure as it would if you were using one of those CO2 cartridges. But to avoid getting yet another gadget, this is going to be fine. All we're doing is introducing air at a really rapid rate. In the interest of my lack of patience, we're going to go with this. Oh God, that's good. All right, we'll let that hang out. Let's build our cocktail. So we have the 2 different kinds of rum. One is getting mixed into the cocktail, and the other is going to be afloat on top. So for into the cocktail, we're doing 1 ounce of our light rum. And then this is our second magic ingredient. We are using a toasted macadamia orgeat. Now, I swear to God, I didn't even know this cocktail existed before we started producing this toasted macadamia orgeat. I just really like toasted macadamia nuts. So when I was in Hawaii and realized that there is this famous Mai Tai using toasted macadamia syrup, pretty psyched. So ½ ounce of our toasted macadamia orgeat. If any of you have already purchased this from me, you know how good it is. It's nutty and delicious and almost a little marshmallowy, and those toasty notes really come through. Oh, so good. And then we're gonna do ½ ounce of our Cointreau. And again, whatever orange curacao you have is gonna be fine. If you wanna use Grand Marnier, you can use that too, but that has a brandy base, so it'll be a little bit richer. And then 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. Shake her up. Okay, I've left just a little bit of room at the top of this glass because I know we have that foam going into this. So let's pour the contents of most of our cocktail. And now that dark rum, we're gonna do 1 ounce float. Oh, look how pretty. And then we're just gonna layer this foam right on top. Whew. The longer we let that sink, that dark rum is gonna float down a little bit. I'm really excited to drink this one. And And finally, for our last Mai Tai, we are going to make an ube Mai Tai. Now, ube, if you're unfamiliar, is a Filipino root vegetable, closely related to taro root, often called a purple yam. This is a tuber that is sweet, it's earthy. The syrup has notes of vanilla, it's a little bit nutty. I've had people describe this to me as tasting like kettle corn, which is pretty accurate. So that being said, it's kind of orgeat adjacent in flavor profile. So this syrup is phenomenal anywhere you would use an orgeat. Hence, are using it in a Mai Tai. I've had this recipe on my website for a while, and I typically use a Barbados rum for this recipe, but I'm really digging this Koloa dark rum. So that's what we're gonna use. This is a very simple, straightforward recipe. 2 ounces of your favorite dark rum. And then we're gonna do 3/4 of an ounce of an orange curacao, Cointreau in this case. 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice. And 3/4 of an ounce of ube syrup. Now, a little goes a long way here. You could even dial this back to 1/2 ounce, which we might do for this. And any amount of this syrup is going to turn your drinks intensely purple. All right, give it a really good shake. And then, ooh, that dark rum made this like a black color. Yeah, I mean, I really do like a hedge in my drink, gotta say. Also, mint is one of those plants, like if you're planty and growing things, mint is so easy to grow. And if you're not planty and you want to start growing things, start with mint. It's going to take over wherever you plant it. So it kind of likes to be by itself. Yeah. Woo. Well, this looks delicious. Do I really have to wait to taste these? All right, let's line them all up. I don't have enough of the short guys. Surfside sips if you need straws. They're great. Okay, I think we got to start from Trader Vic's and work our way down. So this was our Jamaican rum, orange curacao, lime juice, and orgeat. I mean, I can see why that woman got very excited. I too am excited drinking this. That's really good. I almost think it could use a touch more orgeat. It's not that it needs more sweetness, but the almond flavor doesn't come through a ton in this particular spec. That also could be because of the particular orgeat that I was using isn't necessarily, it's almond flavored, but that almond flavor isn't dominant. So the syrup you choose matters. I will say that. Overall, this is delicious. Let's move on to Don the Beachcomber, who I am convinced was high in the best possible way when he came up with this recipe. I'm gonna, again, go in with a straw on this one. So this is the one that has falernum and grape juice and absinthe and Ango bitters. It's delicious. It is so different from the other Mai Tai. It has so many baking spices in it from the falernum. But really, really good. I actually, I hate to say it, I think I might prefer that to the Trader Vic's version, but it's like comparing apples to oranges. They're just not the same thing. Again, really, really good. And again, that Smith & Cross takes over a little bit because that is a pungent rum, but I think it works better in this application than this application. I think I would prefer a more neutral rum in the Trader Vic spec, and I like the Smith & Cross, that heavy Jamaican funk in the Don the Beachcomber version. We're just really splitting hairs here over Mai Tais. All right, moving on to what I know is my favorite. This is the Monkeypod Mai Tai. And so in this, we have our layers of mixed Mai Tai, we have our dark Hawaiian rum float, and then we have our passion fruit foam on top. And I have this giant thick straw for this. It's perfect for drinking things that have a foam. So as I pierce the foam, I'm gonna get a bunch of foam in this first sip. Oh my God. I could suck that whole thing down in an instant, and that would be a completely different channel. I gotta tell you, that is amazing. It tastes a little bit different from the restaurant, obviously because I'm not on vacation in 5 Deep, but I think I like it even better. It's a little bit lighter and it's a little bit less sweet than the restaurant version, which means I could drink even more of these. But that's the beauty of making them at home, right? Like you can make it to your particular taste. That's phenomenal. All right, and then finally, the ube Mai Tai. Now, I have made this many, many, many times. A lot of you have made this. A lot of my customers buy the ube syrup specifically for this. However, I have never made this with this Koloa dark rum, and I'm super excited to give it a try. Oh, goddamn. Oh! Oh. Oh, Koloa, we should talk. Oh, man. Ooh, you know, these are great. They're tried and true. They're delicious. These are exceptional. They're very different from each other. This one, whoo, unique, a little more effort since you need to make that foam, but very tropical, very vacation-esque. Lots of good vibes here. This is outstanding, and I'm not just saying that because I make the syrup for it. I mean, technically I make the syrup for this one too. But the ube Mai Tai is really different. That Koloa rum is exceptional in it. It makes it this sort of black dark color. Maybe we'll call this a black Mai Tai, or a lava flow, although I think that's another cocktail. Regardless, I highly recommend trying. If you have any questions, please put them below. If you have a Mai Tai spec you want me to try, let me know. I love trying out the things that you guys suggest to me. Whew. I feel like I have a really fun evening in front of me. Also, if you have questions about the Smart Nugget Ice Maker, please ask away. I'm gonna put a link below. Thank you to eCozy for sponsoring this video and for the ice maker. It's a really good addition, especially coming into summer. So until next time, cheers friends.